to 6, a helping hand with your land.
Neil from Messick's here to give you the top 4 things that you should know before coming into the parts counter. A big part of the ownership experience when you have a piece of machinery is not just what happens in those first days and weeks after you take it home. It's 10 and 20 years after owning that machine for an extended period of time, and the support that a dealership gives to that piece of equipment through its parts and service departments. These guys behind us here are arguably way more important than the sales guys that are going to sell you that shiny new piece of equipment. So come along with me here with the help of 4 of our parts guys. We're going to give you those top 4 things that you can know that make these guys' job a lot easier when you come into the parts counter. So I'm starting down here at the very end of the parts counter with Dave. And Dave, what is the number 1 thing that somebody needs to know when they walk up to your parts counter?
Thanks for asking, Neil. The number 1 thing that we need to know at the parts counter is make, model, and serial number. I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of variations out there on tractors, and the serial number is the first step in helping us identify what tractor you actually have, what options are on that tractor, what kinds of variante codes might be involved, which is a serial number within a serial number. So,
can you think of any particular model? It's part of the reason this is so expensive is because our machines have no model year, right? You don't come in and say, I've got a 2019 BR 740 baler, right? Which wasn't made in 2019, but hey, is there any particular model that you know off the top of your head that was built for a really long period of time that's a real problem with this kind of thing?
I'd say off the top of my head, maybe a New Holland TN75DA.
Okay.
In that TN series, there's a lot of serial number breaks in those tractors. There's a lot of issues with maybe the front axle and changes and updates that we have to know about at the counter before we get to the right parts.
So as those machines are in production and production changes are made throughout the years, those serial numbers are going to tell us what you have, not a model year. Taking the next step down the counter here to our next big personality is Jake. Jake, give me my number 2 thing that you need to know when you come to the parts counter.
Number 2 is know your implement. If we're talking front end loaders, we're talking mower decks, we just need to know what it is because there are different versions on multiple machines. I mean, sure, there are some mower decks that span across different machines, but you know, your Kubota could have multiple different sizes, so we just need to know what we're working on.
So just because you come in with knowing the model number of your tractor and you need the blades for your tractor, that doesn't necessarily tell us what deck is underneath that machine.
Correct.
Right.
Similar is if you have a Kubota D series, it could have different loaders. So that's an example.
So loaders is another good example.
Yeah.
You can have Grand L series is the same way. You can have an LA 1055 or an LA 805,
Yes.
completely different parts, but those are both loaders on a given model tractor. So yeah, make, model, and serial number for not just your tractor, but also your implement.
Correct, yes.
Is there a particular machine out there, a particular implement that you can give us an example that this is a real problem?
Off the top of my head, a 914A.
914A is a mid-mount mower and a lot of the older New Holland and Ford tractors.
Yeah, it span across many different machines.
And that's a good one, man. That thing's been made for 15 years, and every one of those in multiple different widths have all been called 914A.
Yes.
Working our way down, we're here to Javier. Javi, can you give us the number 3 thing that we need to know before coming to the parts counter?
Por supuesto, la tercera cosa que debemos tener.
Oh, wait a minute. Wrong audience.
Oh, sorry. The third thing we should be bringing to the parts counter would be pictures of the item that you need to be replaced, and we need a picture of the area, but not just that, also a Ford shoot of that so we can see exactly what you're working on there.
So you're trying to get some context of not just what's broken, but where on the machine that was.
Yes, exactly. That's what the third thing we need to have here.
Yeah.
To help the customer.
So a tight zoom picture of the failure itself doesn't do you a whole lot of good.
Not necessarily.
That's right. We don't care why it broke.
Right.
We just got to find you another one.
That's right.
And lastly, we're down here with Austin, who's going to give us our number 4 thing, which is?
Number 4th is urgency. We need to know how fast and how soon you need your parts. Either it's going to be next day air or it'll be 3 to 5 business days on a stock order.
And that is important. Why?
It's important due to the fact that it takes time to get the parts that you need from across the country or wherever they may be coming from. It's not something that we always have the part here on stock. So we do need some time sometimes to get the correct part.
So generally in terms of fill rate, what we would call fill rate on the analytical side, we're generally going to have about 9 out of 10 parts in stock. But that last 10% or so that's not here has to be brought in.
Correct.
The big driver here is one, customers' expectation for how quickly they need it, but also cost, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Give me some examples of like how much more expensive something can be on a stock order versus say a next day air. Have you had any interesting run-ins with that?
Yes, so, and it all depends on which vendor you're with. If you're with C&H or we're ordering something from Krone. They have kind of different rates on how they do things for next day air, but a lot of the freight is built on the weight that it weighs.
So a lot of times it's just a simple like FedEx, UPS kind of rate schedule.
Correct,
something
yeah.
coming in expedited versus in a large stock order.
Large
box.
stock.
Generally comes with no freight cost to the customer.
Correct.
That's part of our regular ordering program. What about drop ships? Is that kind of the same way, or how often are we using drop ships?
Yeah, drop ships are kind of a different thing and newer to some people, but faster. Drop shipping takes 2 to 3 days, basically with all of our vendors here at Messick's, and yeah, that's
Another quick way to get
another quick way to get your parts. Yep.
It's guys like these that make, for one, working here a lot of really enjoyable, fun personalities to be around. And for somebody like you and as a owner of a piece of equipment, the knowledge, the personalities, the support that these guys can give to somebody that owns a piece of equipment can be really valuable. In being able to keep your machine running, about knowing the mechanics of how things work and what you need to be looking out for when you're making a repair. These guys just go a really, really long way to making a dealership the reason why you should buy a piece of equipment being far more important than, say, the brand or model number that it might be. So if you're shopping for a piece of machinery, if you have parts or service needs that we can help with, this is what we do. It's why we're here. Give us a call, 800-222-3373, or online at messicks.com.